is Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with my April wrap-up. I did not do a mid-month wrap-up this month, and I think that's fine because I only read 17 books. I feel like that is so low for me. I usually read at least 20, but I went on 2 trips this month. I have been so busy, and I have weekend plans this weekend as well, and I'm just ready to slow down and just have some time to myself. It has been a lot lately, and so I have definitely not been reading. My reading has primarily been audiobooks. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 audiobooks out of the 17 books I read. So I've just been really feeling the audiobooks lately. But I also could listen to my audiobooks while I was driving because I went to Cleveland a couple times. My brother did have a second child, so I'm an aunt for the second time. So I went to visit them earlier this month, and I'm going to go back up this at the end of the month. And then I had also a book signing in Cleveland that I drove to, so I've just been driving a lot, so got through a lot of audiobooks. I also went to Jesse McCartney's tour last night, and I am still so giddy over that concert. It was amazing. I have been a fan of his since like 2006. I have seen him 3 times now in concert, and it just gets better every time, so it was amazing. But I will go ahead and get to the 17 books I read in April. The first book I listened to on audio was Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher, and this one was good. I'm giving it like 4 stars. I definitely don't remember too much reading this as a romance. It didn't really capture me the way that her Dreamland Billionaire series does. I was so fully obsessed with those, and this one was pretty good. I do think it was a little long. I do remember them and how they met and how they really didn't get along, but then they're working on like renovating houses. I did really love Dahlia's character though, and how she was kind of emotionally recovering from a breakup and seeing her ex-fiance move on so quickly and then having the hero there to help her. I really enjoyed their dynamic a lot, but I just wanted this to be a little bit shorter and have a little bit more of those like iconic, adorable moments that the Dreamland Billionaire series has. So solid 4-star read. I didn't dislike it to give it a 3-star because for me a 3-star means like it was like average, wouldn't recommend. Definitely recommend reading this. It's just like very long. They got lost a little bit in the kind of like mundane details of the story, but overall definitely a very good read. And also this is why I feel like I do mid-month wrap-ups, because I read this a month ago and I don't remember a lot about it. So the next book I'm counting as read is a beta read. I cannot talk about it because it is not coming out for a while, but I did beta read something and it was really good. Then I finally finished Rope the Moon by Ava Hunter. I was reading this at the very end of March and finished it in April, and this was so good. I feel like a lot of authors are recently doing like pregnancy trope, but not his baby. So this one is a second chance romance, so angsty. The heroine is in a very abusive relationship and she's pregnant with that man's child, so she runs away back home to her small town, gets stranded about like 8 hours away, calls her father, doesn't know her father's actually dying of cancer, which we learned in the first book. And so the hero hears that she needs her dad, and so he's like, I'll go, hops in the car, makes the 8-hour drive in like 4 hours, no lie. He is booking it to get to her, and he arrives and brings her home, and it's their like reconnecting, falling in love, her not being willing to like accept the fact that she's pregnant because she's worried about like, how is this child gonna be? Is it gonna be like the man that's the father, or have to protect her child from men like the father? And the hero's like, tell me his name, I'm gonna like go after him, make sure you're safe. And she's just very hesitant to even say his name to bring him back into her life. And so it is so good. It's very angsty. They actually had a secret relationship for like a year where no one really knew, but they knew that she was going to be leaving, so they never made it into something serious. They both obviously really loved each other, so second chance, very emotional. And we have some crazy plot twists at the end because there's definitely suspense in here because she is running from an abusive ex. I loved this. 5 stars. Ava Hunter is for sure a new favorite author. I'm obsessed. I did start a vlog where I read new releases. So my first trip up to Cleveland, I listened to this entirely in one day. On the way there, on the way back, I was obsessed. This book, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, is so good. She just one-ups herself with every release, and I don't know how she does it. This one, our hero and heroine believe that they are both like cursed, where the person who dates them, whenever they break up, that person goes to find their one true love, so they're like always the person before the person, and they learn that each other has this curse, and they're like, hey, why don't we date so that we can break up and then break each other's curses and go find our one true love when we break up? And so they decide to date just for the summer. She's a travel nurse, so she goes to Minnesota, and he he ends up having to really give up his life for family reasons, and so he's just in a really weird place. She is just like a ray of sunshine for him, and they're so giddy around each other. I was obsessed, but she's also dealing with family issues as well, so this has a lot of depth and a lot of emotion behind it. I love this so much. The heroes that Abby writes are literally top tier, and I was obsessed, and it's just, I could not put this down. I listened to it in one day. I was obsessed. Like I said, I read so many great books this month, so I'm gonna say obsessed a lot in this video. Then I read the audiobook of The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. This one is a really adorable second chance romance, and I love second chance romances. I give this 4.5 stars because I do think it went on a little too long at the end, but this one, our heroine is a sports agent, and she broke her boyfriend's heart in college and like never looked back, never really gave him an explanation, and she had her reasons, but now he is her new client, and he walks in the door, sees her, and he is like, absolutely not, and he like turns around to walk out because she literally obliterated his heart in college. And so then he realizes like he has to take her on as his agent and decides to make her life as hard as possible, giving her all these really menial tasks and really testing her. And then there is the married in Vegas trope in here, and I usually don't love that, but listen, it really worked in this book. I had so much fun reading this. I will say, like I said, the ending and leading up to the end wasn't my favorite, but overall, I really loved this whole agent football player romance and how they had to be around each other a lot, and then like obviously address what happened in the past, because she just broke him and he has never gotten over her. His friends are so fun too. I really loved his teammates and how much they had to say about their relationship, so I really love this one. So I did have 2 DNFs, which I feel bad about, but I DNF'd How to End a Love Story. This one I was seeing everywhere. I had the audiobook. I listened to it. This one I got 75% in. I got in the 2 I DNF'd, got so far into them. Unfortunately, this one was just really serious and dealt with a lot of loss and trauma. The heroine's sister died by suicide in the beginning, and the hero is the one who had ended up killing the heroine's sister. So the heroine's sister, I think, like walked in front of his car on purpose. So it was just him. He was just like the wrong person at the wrong time kind of thing. And so he has had tremendous guilt, but her family always blames him even though it wasn't his fault. And so we fast forward to when they're like adults and working in the film industry, and her books are being turned into like a movie or TV show, and the hero's on the writing team. And like when they first meet, she's like, oh, you're my sister's killer. And so it's just odd how they didn't really address a lot of the trauma. They didn't really work through it because they end up going home for the holidays around the same time and then jump so quickly into a physical relationship, and it just felt like it wasn't really a romance to me. It felt a lot like lit fic, and instead of being like very romantic and like I was really rooting for the characters to be together, I was like, you guys just have to deal with a lot of these problems, and it was just so heavy to read a book that really revolved around the suicide of someone. And so I was not in the mood for a romance like that, and I just was not loving these characters, so I ended up DNFing it. Then I read Wild Love by Elsie Silver, and I gave this one 5 stars. This one is so good. Now I do want to clarify, this is not cowboys. A lot of people think it's a cowboy romance because that's what she wrote before. This is not. This is small town. The hero's a billionaire. He owns his own like recording studio that he's really trying to build off the ground, and this 12-year-old shows up and she's like, hi, I'm your daughter. And he's like, what? He had donated sperm when he was young, and she needs a guardian. Like something's happening with her parents. Her dad passed away and she needs a place to stay. The heroine and the hero have been around each other their whole lives because she is his best friend's sister, and they've always really bantered and bickered and butted heads, but they really both had crushes on each other, never did anything about it. And she had this high like corporate job and gets fired because of harassment by someone high up in her job. They end up letting her go because of the situation, and she's just like, I don't know what to do. She's in a relationship that she's really just like bored and stagnant in. So she goes back home to her small town, and he ends up hiring her to work for him, and they're around each other all the time. Old feelings come up. It is so good. Like it has so many small town antics. There's like a single dad's bowling league, and I really loved her brother. Her brother's a single dad, and he is divorced, I believe, and like the mom is still in the picture and everything, but like he's raising his kids, and the small town is perfect, and the romance is everything. I was obsessed with this one. I give it 5 stars. The next one, unfortunately, was a DNF, and it was a consensus in my Patreon. If you are interested, I have my Patreon link down below. You can join as a free member for a week trial if you're interested, but we read a Nora Roberts book a month, and we read Northern Lights this month, and this was a miss. We have had such good reads for the beginning of the year, and then this is our first one that we all collectively agreed was just not our taste. I DNF'd it around like 80%. I was like, I don't physically care about the end of the story, and I just don't want to continue reading it, so I didn't. This is an Alaska small town romance. The hero is a police officer, and he lost his partner, and so now he is moving to the small town to be like the chief of police, and they discover a body, and it is related to the heroine. It's just like they rushed into this romance so quickly. It was the heroine was like, hey, I want to sleep with you. He's like, okay, and then they start sleeping together. I feel like we skipped any kind of like getting to know each other, falling in love. It just like happened very quickly, and then the small town mundane details were very boring. I was like, he's just going around small town Alaska. So this was not my favorite. I didn't really care about the mystery either, so I DNF'd it. And I think this is my least favorite Nora book, which makes me so sad, but glad I read another one off of her list. And I have high hopes for our next read though. I think I'm gonna really like it. And in my new releases video, the last book I read was Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I was also obsessed with this one. I gave it 5 stars. I am shocked how traditionally published books have been hitting so well for me lately. This one, our hero and heroine are roommates because their respective ex-fiancés broke up with them to be together. So their ex-fiancés were best friends growing up, and they never said like they've had feelings for each other, and then they realized they did. So they are both heartbroken, are growing close, and then something happens where they get an invitation to a wedding, and they're like, why don't we pretend that we're dating? So this is fake dating, and it's really cute because the heroine is a librarian, and she's like, why am I even in this small town in Michigan? I should go live by my mom. I'll wait it out till the end of the summer when the readathon I'm planning at the library is over. And the hero was like, listen, can I show you how great our town is, and like kind of take you on these dates every week to show you, encourage you to stay. And so they spend a lot of time together. I really love this. They both come from very not broken families, but families that are not perfect, and they both are trying to deal with that. And so the hero's sister comes around, and she's really fun, and I really like them delving into his past with his parents. And then the heroine's father comes around, who's really not that great to her. And so we get this also sense of community and friendship she builds with some people in the book, and reflecting on the kind of person she is when she's in a relationship, when she has friends. And I just really liked this book overall with the characters, and especially the romance. It was so cute. Oh my god, I love this. Then on another trip to Cleveland, I listened to the audiobook of The Graham Effect. I did start this last year. I got about halfway through, and I was loving it, but then I had to go pick something else up because it was really long and I was behind on arcs. So I finally re-listened to the beginning of this one, finished it. This was so good. 5 stars. I was obsessed. This one, they meet at a like hockey training camp. She is Garrett Graham's daughter from the Off Campus series, and he is a hotshot hockey player. He sees her and he calls her like this princess and thinks that she's a figure skater, and she lets him think that, but she is really a really great hockey player. She really wants to play for the US women's hockey team, and so they're both in college playing, and he agrees to help her skate, like work on her technique behind the net if she puts in a good word with her dad for a training camp he really wants to coach at. And so they spend more time together, and then they realize that they really like each other, and it is so good. But his new teammate and like co-captain is her ex-boyfriend who cheated on her, so they have to walk a thin line between like wanting to be together and keeping a secret because they don't want people to get mad that they're together. And then like the end, I love this book so much. 5 stars. Cannot wait for book 2. So then I read, I think I put it up above, but I read Midnight of Ashes by Tessa Hale. This one is a dragon shifter romance. It's book 2. Book 1 ended on a cliffhanger. The heroine has no idea she's a dragon shifter or that dragons or magic exist. The heroes all meet her. There are 5 of them. They are all so different and have such different relationships with her, and I really enjoyed watching them build throughout the book and really change and grow and develop. And we get some more action and suspense thrown in there, and then more secrets and some more dragon stuff, which I really loved, and another cliffhanger. I love this. Gave it 5 stars. These are so quick and fun and entertaining, and I cannot wait for book 3. It comes out in July, the final book of the series, to see how everything ends. Then for my book club with Lacey, we read This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. Unfortunately, I'm giving this like 3.5 stars, more up to 4, but at the beginning I was obsessed. Like this one, I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be like a new favorite book. And I knew a lot of people were complaining that this was more lit fic than a romance because this deals with a heroine whose husband is cheating on her and breaking the law with his company. I don't want to spoil how, but she is very suspicious of something, and then he goes to jail, and now she is like left with her daughters. What is she gonna do? And the person that put her husband in jail is someone that she really likes. So I was all in the beginning. I was like, oh, it's like got some suspense in it. What's gonna happen? What is she gonna uncover? But then we skip forward a year. And then we're just focusing on her wanting to date herself and the hero being so into her, but she's like, I can't date you because I want to date myself. And I'm like, listen, you have this gorgeous, just so put together man wanting to be with you, and you were like, no, I'm gonna date myself. Date the gorgeous man. And so it was a little frustrating on that aspect because she literally had no other reason she didn't want to date him other than that. And she did have to be skeptical though, because like her daughters were definitely wary of him because they blamed him for their father going to jail, and she has to go through that kind of really sticky relationship of not ruining her daughter's relationship with their father when she is so done with him. So I did like that family dynamic, and I really like her friends and her sister and all that in here, but the romance was definitely lacking. Like, it had such a good like setup for an amazing romance, but that was not the center of this book. So 4 stars overall, but definitely like a lower 4 because I just wanted more. Like, Before I Let Go was so good, and this one could have been really good if she focused on the romance more. Then I read my art copy of Fragile Sanctuary by Catherine Cowles. This comes out in May, but she was giving away these special trope arcs, and she's giving them away at Denver, and I was obsessed with this book. One of my new favorites by Catherine because there's so much suspense in here. The suspense is with a serial killer, and the hero is an ex-profiler. Literally everything I'm obsessed with. The heroine is trying to fix up her parents' burnt down house because her parents and sister died in a fire that she survived, and she is now finally confronting that trauma and rebuilding the house. And her foster brother is like lead on construction, and Anson works with her brother. So it is like brother's best friend romance, grumpy sunshine. He's super grumpy because he's super damaged, and the heroine is just trying to cope with her trauma and like start new and really build a life that she loves. And so she does that, and the hero is definitely very standoffish and not nice to her, but they have to work a lot together, and the more they're around each other, the more they start falling for each other. She gets a cute dog in here. This was so good. The suspense is so good. So good. Oh my god, I was obsessed. 5 stars. Please read this when it comes out. And I listened to the audiobook of Burnout by Rebecca Genshak, which I gave 4.5 stars. This one is a college romance. Very hate to love. They push each other's buttons. The hero first meets the heroine. It does not take her seriously. She's just like jumping around in a leotard. She's actually an Olympic medalist, and he realizes, so he is a bike racer, and he is getting into doing more like trick stuff, and he's just not the best. And his teammate is like, listen, like I got help from this gymnast, and all these exercises she had me do really helped me with like my core and my balance and like doing tricks well. And so he then realizes it's the girl that he kind of insulted before, and so they really butt heads, but their banter is so good, and they end up spending a lot of time together and training together and opening up also about like their fears and their own issues to one another and really help each other through that. But they are both definitely scared to commit to one another because of their pasts, and I had so much fun reading this. I loved the audiobook. Highly recommend. It is a college romance though, so they would go to parties, and like I am not like so in love with college romances, but his family, his brother is the one from the last book of the Wallflower series, which I loved. So it was so fun seeing them and him take on this role as taking care of his brothers because they don't have parents around, and it was so good. 4.5 stars. Definitely recommend checking this out. Then I listened to the audiobook of Unfurl by Elodie Hart. This is actually supposed to be on my May TBR because it was my Patreon pick what I read, but I read it early because I had to drive 6.5 hours to DC for a Polycon. So I listened to it, and I'm giving this one 3 stars. This one was literally the plot with sex, and I was like, we gonna do something else in this plot? I really don't feel like the characters were that developed. The heroine is a virgin, and she has a lot of religious trauma, and so she is like, I want to lose my virginity. And the friend was like, hey, listen, there's like this club where you can sign up to like lose your virginity in like a really great way. And her new neighbor, who is I think like 14 years older than her, owns that club. So it's like her exploring her sexuality, and that's really all it was. I feel like we didn't really get to know her as a character. We didn't get to know the hero as a character beyond the sex and the club. And the last hour of this audiobook was one extended priest nun role play. And I was like, what? Like, I am so bored. Like, I'm gonna listen to this for an hour. It was, no. And it wasn't like horribly written, so it's not like a 2-star. It didn't make me mad. I was just like bored the whole time. So that's a 3-star read to me. I did not love it. And then the next audiobook I read on my drive was Academy of Protectors by, I have to look at this closely, Gray Holborn. I love Tessa Hale, and this is recommended for fans of Tessa Hale, so I was like, yes, why choose? Paranormal. This one I give 3 stars. This one was very short. It was 7 hours, so I finished both Unfurl and this in my drive to DC, and I wanted to love this so badly, but the heroine has been training under this like elite like legend of a fighter, and she then like arrives at this like academy of protectors. She's being trained to be a protector, but like there were so many characters that were like thrown out there and a lot of very gender neutral names. So I had a really hard time figuring out who is who. Zero romance in here. Like no one gets together, and it's supposed to be a why choose romance, and I was like, where's my romance? Like that's why I read romance. And it's her just kind of like going around, maybe like being attacked by a supernatural creature and like surviving it, and then like one big thing happening at the end where there's a cliffhanger. And I was like, there's nothing really world building going on. There's nothing building with the relationships going on. So I was like, nothing's happening. So I gave it 3 stars. I wanted more and didn't get it. So definitely love Tessa Hale a bit more than this. Then Tori told me she loved this book, so she made me read Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. I have very conflicting feelings. I listened to this all in one day because I listened to it on my drive home. It was a 17-hour audiobook. I listened at 3 times speed. That's why I can get through them. And this one, I'm so conflicted over because it has one of my absolute favorite tropes in it, but it doesn't come in until 2/3 into the story. So the heroine starts out, it's a college romance. She is in love with her brother's best friend, and we meet him and I'm like, oh, so it's a brother's best friend romance. And I was like, but he's like not likable. Like there was nothing about him I really loved. And I was like, are we supposed to be rooting for this? And so then she's like, he's never gonna like me. They have a one-night stand and he takes her virginity and then acts horribly afterwards, and she's like heartbroken, so she decides to move on and date this other guy who's a football player. And it's just like a sweet romance. It's like, oh, they're like really like each other and they're just going through, and I'm like not getting connected to this new guy because I'm like, obviously something's got to happen for her to like go back to the brother's best friend because it's going to be that kind of romance, right? And I was just like not connected to either hero. I like didn't like either of them. I wasn't rooting for any relationship, and this is a 17-hour audiobook. There were so many scenes that I was like, why? This is boring. Like, let's cut this. I don't need to watch them do this. I am not a fan of just mundane, cutesy, or boring things happening in books. Like, get to the point, please. So this should have been shorter. And then my favorite trope occurs. And then I was like, if there was like half of the beginning just cut and we focused on the middle and the end, I would have really liked this book. However, the hero was being very annoying and just not fighting for what he wanted at the end, where I was like, you're just gonna let this happen and not fight for the love of your life? Really? I was getting really annoyed. So I gave this 3 stars. Like 3.5, because like it could have been so good if so much was cut out, but I was just more frustrated than not. So let me know your thoughts on that book though. Those are the books that I read in April. Let me know what you read and what you thought of these books. I would love to hear, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.